Hello, welcome to our Tanker Town Hall. I'm Stuart Pittman, Anne Arundel County Executive, and I've got with me here our Fire Chief, Tricia Wolford, and our Community Engagement Officer for South County, Vincent Molden. And the topic is a little bit different, especially in the midst of everything that's going on with the coronavirus pandemic. But government does continue to function on all levels during this time. And sometimes it's nice to talk about something a little bit different from just coronavirus. And so let me give you a little bit of background about why we're here. The fire department makes changes, as does every department of county government, from station to station in services and staffing and in apparatus. In South County, there are not as many fire hydrants as in other parts of the county. I live in South County myself, and we're lucky that on our farm there's a pond, and it's been used before to get water for fires. So the tanker trucks are an important aspect of the fire service in South County, but they're also used throughout the county. And the Riva Volunteer Fire Department that serves my community, been around a long time. Has a tanker that was purchased by the volunteers, been staffed by the career firefighters, and during some changes, the staffing for that tanker has been moved, and there was some concern from folks in the community and the fire department, the volunteer fire department folks, and a lot of questions raised about how these decisions get made and what's it going to mean for the Davidsonville area versus other parts of South County, and how's the service going to work. So I had a lot of conversations with people, heard from a lot of residents about this, and had an interesting conversation with Chief Wolford about how these decisions are made. And I just said, wow, this is really complicated. Could you put together a presentation describing it? And I think a lot of people might be interested. And so we decided to go ahead and do it in a public way. So that's what we're here for. I want to introduce Vincent for those of you who don't know him. He's one of our team. We've restructured the way we do community engagement and constituent services now. We have 3 community engagement staff for different parts of the county, as well as 2 new people in constituent services who are real experts. One we stole from Public Works, one we stole from Plan and Zoning, that are in the office that deal with some of the questions and concerns that constituents have. So Vincent happens to be a real pro at social media as well, and so he put all of this together. I think it was his idea to do this anyway. So take it away, Vincent.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. As the county executive said, I'm the new community engagement officer for Annapolis and South County. I received numerous phone calls and emails from constituents who were concerned with how water is supplied for firefighting in areas without public water service. I took those concerns and I shared them with the county executive and Fire Chief Wolford. Those concerns were heard, and that's how this Tanker Town Hall came to be. My job is to do exactly what I just described. I serve as the liaison between the community and the county executive and the departments that serve our community, along with my colleagues in the Community Engagement and Constituent Services Office. So please feel free to reach out to us with any questions or concerns. I'll leave my contact info in the comments.
All right. So let's hear from our fire chief.
Thank you.
How do we make these decisions?
Well, thank you, everybody. My name is Tricia Wolford. I'm the Anne Arundel County Fire Chief. Joining me this evening is the Assistant Fire Chief, Larry Schultz, and he's also in charge of our operations division. So he'll be here to answer some of the operational focused questions. And then we also have Joni Appel with us. She's our GIS specialist for the fire department, who has helped us really try and simplify a very complex process of water supply and how we bring big water to big fires. So we have a couple of maps. We're going to do just a little bit of water supply education, and then we'll go ahead and answer some questions. So as you can see here, this is a picture of Anne Arundel County. If you look at the map here in the key, the pink area that you see on the map, or red, depending on how it's coming through, is actually where we have existing hydrants and public water in Anne Arundel County. The green, which there's quite a bit of it, especially in South County, is where we do not have water service. There are not hydrants, minus the fact that in South County, the one high school does have hydrants located on that property. So you can tell this kind of gives you the magnitude of what we try and work with. And this has been like this for years and years. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So here we are looking at the area of interest. This is Station 3, the Riva area. You can see that red triangle in the center there. That is the location of the Riva Fire Station. And then everything that's pink is from the moment any of our drivers and our apparatus leave the station, they then reach that 10-minute response time. So if you can flip back, Jenny, to that first map so you can see how that plugs in there. And what's important to know is residential housing units in all of Anne Arundel County. There's over 260,000 residential housing units. 219,000 of those housing units are served by public water, which means in the lower South County part, 41,000 residential units have no public water service. So those are some pretty big numbers we're working with. If you look just at South County, which for our mapping purposes is from the Woodland Beach, basically 214 and south. So that would be for larger community names, Woodland Beach, Galesville, Harwood, Lothian, Shadyside, Deal. There are approximately 20,500 residential units total in this area. 2,500 of those units are served by public water. Majority of these are in the Edgewater area, which means there are 18,000 residential units that have no public water. So of that 41,000 we discussed in the entire Anne Arundel County, almost 20,000 of those residential units are in that lower South County area. So it just kind of gives you a number, an idea of the numbers we're working with. So if you go back to the second map again, please. Thank you. So again, there's our Riva Fire Station, that little red triangle. Anytime a piece of apparatus leaves there, it's a 10-minute response time, and it reaches all of everything you see in pink. And then also what you see in that cross hatching, you can see that those areas were capable of reaching water. So within the pink, basically half of it, we're unable to reach that public water, and the other half that is crosshatched, we are able to reach it. So that's approximately 43% of Riva's first due area that is not served by public water. So we'll go to the next map. This is just a blow up of that section, so you can really tell, you can kind of see a little bit better of where the roads are leading through the community, and a little bit closer up of where that station is, and the South River kind of working its way back up there. The next map, please. So this is Station 9, and as you can see, we were in the area just above the yellow is where the pink ones. We have a map that we'll be able to see both of them on. So Station 9's area is the Harwood Lothian area, and this conversation is about our tanker. So the tanker driver was assigned to the Riva station. It is now moved to the new triangle here, which is Station 9, which is Harwood Lothian. That yellow area is just the same as the pink area on the other map. That depicts the 10-minute response time from when a driver and a piece of apparatus leave that triangle. This is how far they can reach. You can see our county line wraps all the way around in black. And just that one little small section you see has a little bit of cross hatching just above the K and the E in Chesapeake Beach. That's our Rosehaven community, which they do have hydrants there. So it's just like part of a crosshatch that you got on the mapping. So we stated before that 43% of Riva's first due is not served by public water. 99% of Harwood Lothian's first due is not served by public water. 100% of Galesville does not have public water, and Shadyside is also 100%, and Deal is 94%. That other percent is Rosehaven that's making up a piece of that. So you can tell by the numbers, and we're trying to show on the map, that there is a vast difference of where we are able to access water in Riva versus down in Lothian. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So again, this is just the blown up version of what we previously saw. It gives you an idea of that 10-minute response time from the station. And you can see up north, there's just a very small piece of that area that is covered with the cross hatching. And then when you look south, you can see that tiny bubble over Rosehaven where they do have access to public water. So we'll go to the next map, and we're going to put those two side by side. So again, we look at the entire county. You can see North County, majority of it is covered with the cross hatching of the access to fire hydrants. There are still pieces, quite a few pieces over in Cape Sinclair and some of those areas that do not have water. But we're still focusing on, again, Riva is the pink, Harwood Lothian is the yellow. You can see just by scale there, Harwood Lothian's a little bit bigger area to cover. So you can see we need to reach much further there. And again, it's still showing to scale what that 10-minute response time is. We'll move to the next map. So there's a series of 3 maps here that all, they all look like the 4th of July. And it's quite a visual when you understand what we're looking at here. The smaller dots that you see that are solid pink, that have no white in them, they're with the lines connected, are where in the last 2 years we've had structure fires that require what we call big water. They require the tanker to respond on those calls. The dots that you see with the pink outline and the white center, those are where our fire stations are. So you have the clarity of that. The center dot, where these are both kind of exploding from, is where the star is on 2 of those. And so in this map in particular, it shows Station 9, and then it shows Station 23, which is Jones Station up on Ritchie Highway. So right now with our staffing, we have 1 dedicated full-time tanker driver in the entire county. And when we did the data on this research, the research for years and years continually shows us that Station 9 has the greatest centralized reach for a majority of the homes that do not have access to public water, kind of back to those percents that we looked at. If we were able to put in an additional driver and have an additional staffed full-time tanker, the data shows the next best place for it to go would be Jones Station up on Ritchie Highway. And this just kind of shows you the model of the reach. For ease of clarity, we did 2 years, because you can imagine how jumbled it would be for multiple years. So as I said, right now we have 1. And so we put it at Station 9. For us, the knowing that the data shows that we can serve a greater volume of the population that has less ability to reach hydrants, 9 was the ideal spot for it. We'll go to the next map. If we had the opportunity in future years to have staffing for 3 dedicated tanker drivers, this shows us where all 3 would be. Again, the model still shows 9, which is Lothian, Jones Station, which is 23, and then Station 4, which is over in the Severn area. And that just gives you an idea of that call breakdown. And we'll go to the next one. Here we are again. You can see the stations listed down there again. So 9 with Lothian, Jones Station, Severn, those are the 3 we had. If we were to add any in, the 4th one by the data shows that it would be West Annapolis. Trying to reach that puts us in a position to reach all of those areas in a supply necessary way with water. So I think I know we have some questions. I think there's a couple things to clarify. The tanker still resides at Riva at Station 3. The tanker itself has not moved. We have moved the driver. Before I arrived in this position, there was a purchase order in for a new tanker. And that tanker was built and delivered to us when I got here. And we ran the data for months and months since I got here, because we know water supply is a big deal. And the data showed us that we needed to move the new tanker and the driver to Station 9. So the tanker at 3 still functions. It just does not have an independent driver associated with it. Based on the models of how our calls are put out and how apparatus is assembled for structure fires, sometimes the tanker is chosen first there versus the engine. So the tanker still has opportunities to go out, and it is still functioning there. It just does not have that driver. So I know we got some questions that have already come in, and I figure we can answer more questions. And I do want to say up front, if there's anything that we can't answer, I want to be able to answer everything 100%. So if there's any data or research we need to do, we're going to put an email address up. I have an email address. It's firechief@aacounty.org. So anybody is more than willing, if we don't answer your question here, we'll take some time and get our information together, and we'll email you an answer back. So.
Okay. Am I asking the questions?
You can.
I'm the public. we do have questions.
We are all the public, because I think almost all of us on the screen live in South County, so it's personal too.
Yeah, I do have to say that the Riva Fire Department serves Davidsonville and has for many years, and I know that the volunteers go back generations, as does my family, and we have actually had a couple of fires, some major fires in my lifetime right here. It used to be worse. There are old barn foundations that my father used to tell me used to be barns, and there was a barn fire here and a barn fire there. So thank you to the folks at the Volunteer Fire Department for Riva for serving the community. Well, the first question here is somebody from Gravely.
Yeah.
Asking, how will our home in Gravely be protected given the limited amount of water without the tanker that has been relocated? As we know, it's actually the driver that's been relocated. We have had 2 fires in our neighborhood in recent years, one quite serious.
So I will just give a brief little opening on that, and then I'm going to have Chief Schultz add in. So if you live in Gravely, which for some people that don't know, that's like St. George Barber Road. It's almost getting towards 424. It's this little beautiful area. And so for people living in Gravely, nothing actually changes for them. This would be one of those instances where the driver that is at Station 3 that drives both pieces of apparatus would still be taking the tanker. Gravely, the first arriving engine to Gravely actually comes from our Station 7, which is Arundel Fire Station. That's actually a closer station for them to respond to. So nothing changes in Gravely. Tanker 3 would still respond there, and they would still have the exact same coverage that they had a year ago. Chief Schultz, is there anything you'd like to add for that one?
No, ma'am, you hit the nail on the head there. That tanker that sits at Riva Road is going to be the first one, just like it always been. You won't see any difference there. It's just the folks that normally ride on the engine assigned to Riva would get on that tanker, and you'd see those same faces there each and every time.
Okay, we got somebody here who wants a new fire station with a community center. Not a good year to be asking for this stuff, but if the county is considering a rebuild with the post office and fire station there, I'm assuming they're talking about the Riva fires. Is there an opportunity to make a larger combined facility and maybe a community building also with space for public to use for parties, childcare, indoor recreation, senior activities, health and community classes, etc.? It would be in a walkable distance from most, if not all, of Riva.
So actually with that, we're not building a new Riva Fire Station. We actually have an incredible combination department, which means we have career and volunteers. And you mentioned before, the volunteers at Riva have always taken really well care of that station, and they have always taken care of the career firefighters there. They just did a remodel inside. It's a fantastic station to work at or be assigned to. So even though it would be a great idea to have a community center, that station's in great shape. We don't need a new one there. So that was really never anything on the table. So hopefully I saved you a little money, boss.
Yeah. Well, and I got to say that, the volunteer firefighters, they have had more trouble getting volunteers to work in their stations than in years past. But they continue to raise money. And I mean, they're such an asset to Anne Arundel County. We're so lucky to have them. And I got to say that when I was in the process of looking for a fire chief, one of the criteria was I wanted somebody who really understood what it means to have a combined fire department, and would make sure that that the volunteers were treated with respect, which has not always been the case, and included in decision making. And I know this has been a tough one because the volunteers at Riva have always been so good to the county. Provided office space and apparatus. Not as strong on the actual volunteers, but providing that facility has been. It's support your local volunteer firefighters and contribute, because they're doing something that the taxpayers would be paying for otherwise.
Well, and that's a perfect segue, because we're always looking to recruit and retain. So I have a phone number for Jenny to put up. That is our manager of volunteer services. That's one of the things. When I got here, we had a volunteer coordinator, and like yourself, I felt it was important that their voice was recognized. So we elevated that position. So Antonio Alvarez is who coordinates and helps people get through the process if they want to be a volunteer. So I have a number for him, which is 410-222-8278. And that would be for anybody that's listening that goes, you know what, I think I could be a volunteer, and maybe I don't live in this community, but I live in a different community. We have numerous stations that have active volunteers. So that's my plug for recruitment.
Okay. And there was a question about, are there volunteers who could do this job? And the answer right now is we wish there were. Is that right?
It is. So Station 3 Riva has a volunteer board, an administrative group of volunteers, but they don't have any active operational volunteers. That's something that the leadership there can decide if they want to do. That station is 100% career staffed because we don't have the operational volunteers. You're right. I saw it in one of the questions that somebody, said, well, why can't it be staffed with volunteers? It would be a great option, but they don't have that right now. And that's something, if there's interest, they can reach out to the president there, or they can reach out to Mr. Alvarez and he can help connect them. So we just don't have that resource at that station.
Right. Which I will say to any of the volunteers, that doesn't mean that we're shirking the responsibility. I mean, we understand that the apparatus have been driven by career firefighters. We also know that our fire department has been not staffed as well as it should in the past, and that that was the plan that you put together. You put together an ambitious plan, and in the first year of your plan, we were able to bring on. You can give us some numbers, but we were able to bring on a lot of new firefighters. We got a federal SAFER grant to pay a portion of the cost of them, and it's a multi-year plan. People may have noticed that the economy is not great right now and revenues are down. So this year in our budget, we've had to take a pause, and we're hoping to get back on track as soon as the revenues are there, coming into the county coffers with a better economy. But do you want to say anything about where we are in recruitment and growth?
Well, I think
that's my question.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. What we know is we have to rely on what are the sure numbers, and the sure numbers for staffing or in the career staff. Anything additional that the volunteers bring to the table, we love. We love when we have another ambulance up or another engine, and it's definitely helpful. You can feel the weight of the system lift. But with that being said, we know we are short-staffed. That's a conversation you and I had very early of we're thin. You know, we know when we have a 2-person engine company, it needs to be a 3 or a 4-person. And we all built a great plan together. Nobody could plan for COVID. What I know is the 4-year plan that we built and we were getting ready to execute, we can make a 5-year plan. There's no reason to stray from it. We can massage it a little bit. Probably the biggest thing to understand is it's not just as easy as me coming to you and saying, I need another tanker driver position. I wish it was, you wish it was, but that costs a lot of money. And so it's just not as easy as saying, well, we need that. And we have needs everywhere in the county. So how do you decide which child to feed when you have 31 children to feed? That's kind of how you and I have always looked at it. So I follow the data. I have no reason not to follow the science or the data. And this one was a very difficult decision, but it showed me that we have to speak to the numbers and to the households that really need this help right now.
Well, that was one of the other things that we talked about in your job interview was data-driven decision making, and politics often gets in the way, even at the local government level. And if you make the decisions based on politics, then you end up putting a school in a neighborhood because those people voted for you, or you put a fire station or a police station or whatever it is in the area where your political interests lie. And it's a whole lot better to do it based on some metrics that can be justified to serve the communities the best. And so it looks like that's what's been done here. Somebody asked, Tanker 6 has been in the shop for repairs. And why is that? Or and is there a plan to replace it? And I guess in general, tell us how that works, the repairs for the apparatus and how long they're in and out of service.
Sure. I believe Chief Schultz might have an answer to the repair portion of it. That tanker is owned by the volunteers. The county does not own Tanker 3, that piece of apparatus, but we do maintain it and pay to maintain it. It's one of the many agreements that we have with the private volunteer corporations. Chief Schultz, I'm going to have you speak to the repair portion of Tanker 3 and the comment about it being in the shop recently.
Yes, ma'am. So the records, really, the tanker at Riva is a good piece of equipment. It's well maintained. The volunteers who purchased it have done a great job at keeping it maintained. The county services shop have done a great job of keeping it on the street. We look back over the last 3 years, and the only absence that we saw, and we track everything, there was about a 2.5-month period from August 2019 into October, where that piece was out of service. It actually went back to the manufacturer to get some needed rehab work. So a lot of kind of like a home makeover, but for the tanker. So it was out for about 8 or 9 weeks. But during that time, we do have one reserve tanker, and we were able to put that piece in Riva and make sure there was no lapse of coverage during.
So I guess here's another piece of data that somebody is looking for, and I don't know how this factors into your decisions. What is the data on how many times Tanker 3 has responded to structure fires in past 5 years or number of years? And how many times did it respond to medical calls?
So I have the data. We actually have the data all the way back to 2003. I won't bore you with all those numbers. So for structure fires, I'll do 2015 to now. So in 2015, the tanker responded to 141 structure fires. 2016, 116. 2017, 139. 2018, 99. And 2019, 92. So if we take, for example, just for discussion, if we look at 2019, 92 structure fires, a total of 167 calls. So if we take that 92 out and being left there with just a handful, about 70 calls, those additional 70 calls all make a combination of service calls, help pump out the basement, check on the well-being. Medical calls are part of that. And then our tanker, because of being in South County, a lot of our mutual aid partners don't have public water also. So that includes mutual aid calls where the tanker goes to Calvert, Prince George's County, sometimes across the bridge to the Eastern Shore. So the percentage of structure fires that they're going to is the high 50s, so 55%, 59, 61%. But the tanker averages just over 100 calls in a year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Actually, I'll just include for comparison, the entire station, Station 3, responds to over 2,000 calls a year, where West Annapolis, they respond to almost 7,000 calls a year. So that kind of gives you an idea that the tanker itself is a lower volume piece of apparatus.
Okay. Okay. And I've often wondered, and I've gotten an answer since I've been county executive, because I've asked the question, is why is a tanker going out on a medical call?
So for that one, if it's the closest piece, the way our system works is my job is to get the resource that the homeowner needs in the quickest manner possible. And so the tanker drivers are trained EMTs or trained paramedics. They're fully trained firefighters. Everybody has the same level of credentials. Sometimes that tanker could be the closest piece, and it could be that first responder to get the call started. The thing that we have to weigh with that is in this day and age, there's an element of safety. Maybe 20 years ago, it was okay for somebody in a uniform as a public safety figure to be alone on a scene, whether it's medical, service, fire. It's a little bit harder to do now. It is not safe to do to send one person by themselves because we really never know what we're going to approach. We have an idea of a call, but sometimes it's not as accurate as we would like. So they are equally medical trained, just like anybody else.
Okay. All right. And that's the vehicle they drive, right? And they have to have the vehicle with them. So if they get another call, they have the vehicle. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Compared to Tanker 9, is Tanker 9 doing about the same, more or less?
So
Harwood?
Tanker 9 went in service April 20th, so we haven't even hit its 1 month birthday.
So you don't have the data?
We do not. No, it's been in service less than a month.
Okay. Okay.
There was not a tanker there previously, so there is no data to compare.
Okay. Okay. All right. Are we able to get an update regarding Galesville Fire Station?
Yes. Well, all things COVID. Yes, we are right on
the new
time.
Station is, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Galesville Station 1. We've gone down there and done a walkthrough. We're getting ready to get the temporary certificate of occupancy. Furniture was being loaded. All of our fire suppression systems are in place. Just like every other business owner, we have to go through that too. So we're probably not going to be doing the grand opening that we anticipated doing just due to circumstances, but they should be up and running very shortly. Chief Schultz, I don't know if you have anything more to add with that. I believe apparatus is getting moved over and
yeah, and like the county executive said, we're always kind of shifting resources. So the other exciting thing in Galesville is they'll get a much needed heavy rescue squad, which will greatly serve that area as well. So that's another bonus to that one.
I've been by there and I've been tempted to go looking in the windows, but I thought I would wait for the ribbon cutting. So it's almost ready. Yeah.
I'm going to take your idea and maybe virtual ribbon cut.
Virtual ribbon cutting. Okay. We can have a picture behind us on a green screen of the actual brand new fire station, which is great. Okay, and we have a capital improvements plan. It goes out 5-6 years and tells us where we're going to be putting our capital budget into fire stations. So do you want to say anything about how that works as well while we're talking about?
Sure. Well, Jacobsville, which is up north, will be getting ready to break ground very shortly on that new station. And then I guess I say kind of in the queue, Harold Harbor, which is over General's Highway, that area. And then Cape Sinclair, they'll be getting a new fire station there. So what we try and do is we're trying to get all the stations on a plan for either upgrades, repair, renovation, or when they get the assessments that show that they're in need of replacement, is to get those plans. So we kind of keep that moving and pretty fluid. So for right now, Galesville and South County, we've been working with the leadership at Woodland Beach and in talks with them. So that could be something that could be coming up. Nothing planned or solidified, but great conversation and a great partnership with the volunteer leadership there.
Okay. Any updates on the Mayo station? I think this one just came in.
Yeah, so the Mayo station, we have the Woodland Beach station, and then we have basically a smaller substation, which we call Station 22 because Woodland Beach is Station 2. And that's right on the Mayo Peninsula there in 214. It's actually a public water building facility that they're allowing us to use, where we have an ambulance there. We've had good conversation with the community. That was a pilot program that started prior to me arriving in this position. And we continue to collect some great data and to see where the need is. We obviously would love to be putting a new fire station somewhere closer to that intersection to really serve the community. A lot of that really goes back to, and I know sometimes you feel the same pressure, there's 7 peninsulas in Anne Arundel County, and they all feel the same way about one way in and one way out. So not only do we have my 31 children, but you and I, we talk through some of the same issues of all 7 peninsulas have some of the same needs. Yours, the needs you deal with as a county executive are different than mine, but we all start to intersect. So it's just hard to find money for everyone to do what we need to do. I mean, would we love to put a station down there? Absolutely. But we're not in a position to right now.
Right. Definitely not right now. Okay. Why are responders to 911 medical emergencies, including police, fire, and ambulance, or why do they all go out at once, I think is what they mean? This seems wasteful when only an ambulance and maybe police are needed.
So again, we go off the motto of as a 911 caller to get you what you need as quickly as possible. So the closest resource, our police officers have first aid training. Some of them are EMTs. They carry AEDs depending on the type of call. So if they're closer and they can maneuver there quicker, it's helpful for them to be able to get there, assess the situation, and they feed us information as we're arriving. Depending on the type of call, sometimes 2 people on an ambulance is not the safest, and it's also not the best way to facilitate that call. If we're talking about a cardiac arrest, it takes multiple people to efficiently manage a patient. We're talking about an airway, an IV, all these things all at once. And there are certain benchmarks that we set to make sure that we don't ever lower our limits on what type of patient care we can give. Sometimes that means more people. And again, it's whatever's closest. So if I've got 3 paramedics on an engine and they're the closest, I'm going to get them started first because they have all the same equipment on the engine that they would on the medic unit or the ambulance. So it could seem like a lot sometimes, but it's the community and the people living in the community is my most valuable resource. So we will do whatever it takes to make sure we get them what they need quickly.
And the last question I'm going to ask from this list, somebody's asking if Deal's going to get a new firehouse. And I was down there for pancake breakfast, and I thought the firehouse was pretty awesome myself. But maybe it was just the pancakes were pretty awesome. But
Well,
that's the question.
Pancakes make everything better. I would agree with that. No, they're not on the list. They have also done a very nice remodel, and that's another, again, a great relationship of career and volunteer leadership. The volunteer leadership down there does a great job of taking care of that station, and they're quite active. So they understand, what it feels like for career folks to live there and to have to work there. So it would not be on our highest, greatest needs.
Yeah.
So there could be an opportunity for it down the road, but we definitely have some other stations that have needs before that.
Yeah, they are great people down there. And I have my own Deal Volunteer Fire Department hat. It's one of my favorites. And they put on great events. They're always raising money. They're good folks. So let me just ask you before we close, how your people are feeling about the work that they're doing right now in this pandemic. I know that the majority we think of you as the fire department, but you're our emergency medical technicians. You are the first people that get called in a medical emergency, and you are the people. And that must be a little unsettling in the middle of a pandemic, going into people's homes and exposing themselves that way. So how are you handling all of that?
Well,
how are your firefighters handling all that?
Yeah, my assessment of our firefighters in the field, and this is career and volunteer. When I use the word firefighter, I use the word member. I'm always talking about all of them, because I've always said anybody that is willing to take time out of their day to spend it focused on the community is, in any regard, is somebody that I want, working for us and doing that kind of work. So one, they're absolutely phenomenal. The pace of changes in the beginning, the directives that were coming out, the wear this, the do this, the ability to adapt in a very short period had to be mentally taxing on all of them. It was mentally taxing on my staff as we're up here typing a directive, for the TV to come on and something to change and then retyping, they're absorbing and reading all of that. And so I think, like everything, then you get settled in and they start to absorb. And then for us, I think it's more of my concern of the mental health of it. Like you talked about, the stress of, am I going to take something home to my family, or am I high risk and I don't know it, or am I susceptible? They have worn their PPE very well. And sometimes it's just something as simple as that. They have taken the time to make sure the mask is on, make sure their eye protection is on. And those things have been incredible. Our numbers are much lower than a lot of positive firefighters in other jurisdictions surrounding us and near and far. So they have, I'm so incredibly proud. They have been so resilient. And they know it's not the end, right? They know this might be the new way of how we do business. And then amongst all of these changes, they're still throwing on their gear and cutting people out of cars, and they're still going to fires, and they're still delivering babies, all these things that they do, right? They do all of this on a regular basis. And we've had some great partners. The health department has been fantastic answering questions. Our folks in logistics, you know how this is, people just trying to get supplies in. How many more gowns do we have? How many more weeks can we last? So they're doing fantastic, but it is taking a toll. There is a mental and a physical toll that all of this comes with.
Well, I know that I can say on behalf of all 570 some thousand residents of Anne Arundel County, we love our firefighters and appreciate what they're doing, and they're our heroes, and everybody knows it. So while I think people may have concerns about making sure that the services are delivered to their communities and where people are stationed and all that, that's natural. I know that everybody is thankful for what you guys do. So please keep it up and keep up the wonderful leadership that you've brought to the department. I don't know that there's a more popular, beloved firefighter, fire chief anywhere. I know you came from Anne Arundel County. You actually worked at the Riva station for some time, right?
I did. I was a rookie assigned there. It was my first assignment. So that station is near and dear to my heart. And the volunteers there, they one in particular who is no longer with us, but he took very good care of us. And when I wouldn't do something right, he would go, "Listen here." And you just think about those things and you love it. And what I can say to that Riva, Davidsonville, that South County community, they are still equally protected. Yes, we have changed some things and we have altered some things, and that's a constant flow that happens every fire service in the country, every jurisdiction, and in our county, we're constantly making adjustments with the data. And what I can say is I feel we are making sure that we are doing the best thing for the best residents in this phenomenal county. So we are keeping everybody's interests at play. And we guarantee that we have not shorted anyone of anything. We're just hoping to continue to improve when we can get back to our plan, our staffing plan. So we're going to continue to make improvements, and we're going to hold the line where we're at right now.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Chief Schultz. Also, this was great. I learned a lot. That's part of the reason I wanted to do this is to learn how these.
We're going to all that up online too, so everything will be up. People can see the maps.
Good. And if any questions didn't get asked, which I'm sure I might have missed a few, somebody will get back to you. We always do. And thanks for tuning in. All right. Stay safe, everybody.